Sir, we are going on live, sir, now.
Sir, can we start now?
Yeah, I think you can start now. People are joining, but already we are reaching 5 minutes past 2. So I think we can start.
Yes, sir, we have to start, sir. We are live actually.
Okay,
Thank you.
let us start. Okay,
Okay, sir.
we can start. Yeah.
So at the outset, on behalf of RSMC New Delhi, India Meteorological Department, WMO, SCAP and PTC member countries, I extend warm welcome to all of you for joining us. As you all are aware that WMO SCAP panel on tropical cyclones was established in 1973 to save life and property from the destruction due to tropical cyclones. India Meteorological Department was given the honors to act as regional specialized meteorological center to provide tropical cyclone advisories to the member countries. The year 2023 is the 50th year of establishment of PTC as well as RSMC New Delhi. We are commemorating both the events, and as part of the celebrations, we have organized a lecture series with eminent experts from WMO, SCAP and PTC member countries. As you all are aware that UNSCAP has played an instrumental role in establishment of WMO SCAP panel on tropical cyclones in 1973. Since then, SCAP has extended not only the financial support to the region, but also provided support towards capacity building in the region. So as part of the lecture series, today we have with us Dr. Sanjay Kumar Srivastava, Chief of Disaster Risk Reduction Center, SCAP, Hong Kong. So we welcome you, sir. And I request Mr. Singapit from Thailand Meteorological Department to please introduce the expert speaker.
Thank you, Madam Sharma. Greeting all representatives and participants from member of panel on tropical cyclone and the world meteorological community. My name is Nataki Singhapet, a meteorologist from Weather Forecast Division of Thai Meteorological Department. I will act as expert introducer in this lecture. As you are aware that we are commemorate 50 anniversary of PTC. Today, we will have second lecture in series by Dr. Sanjay Kumar Srivastava, Chief of Disaster Risk Reduction at UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, or abbreviation SCAP. Dr. Sanjay has held key positions in various organizations as advisor on disaster risk reduction. He was SCAP Regional Advisor on Disaster Risk Reduction from October 2009 to June 2014. And he also head of hydrometeorological disaster at SAAARC, Disaster Management Center, near New Delhi from 2007 to 2008. Also, he is the Deputy Project Director of Disaster Management Support Program at Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO. Scientist engineer at ISO HQ Bangalore since 1991. He was also the lecturer of physics at Tribhuvan University of Nepal. He is the recipient of ISO Team Excellence Award for his contribution toward harnessing space technology application for benefit of rural poor. He has authored more than 150 publications on disaster risk reduction, and he also lead author of ESCAP flagship publications such as Asia Pacific Disaster Reports since its inception 2010, and also WMO State of Climate for Asia and Southwest Asia. We're happy to have Dr. Sanjay with us as expert speaker. Today, he will present a talk on transformation in the disaster risk reduction policy while responding to tropical cyclone in the region during last 50 years. This talk aims to highlight key trends in policy response and outline pathway for adaptation and resilience to tropical cyclone. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Kun Singapore. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. And this is a privilege and honor for me to speak to PTC community, my dear friends, Dr. Mahapatraji, and all those who are part of this conversation. So thank you very much. I would like to start my presentation. I hope you are able to see my slides clearly. Can you see my slides?
Sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I thought let me take this opportunity to share with you a perspective from a disaster manager on PTC, a journey of last 50 years, and also look at how PTC should evolve in coming 50 years, especially in the riskier time in the warmer climate. So my first, this presentation I have organized in 5 parts. How journey begins, I think Monica Sarmaji has spoken about it. Then how policy transformations worldwide and also at the country level, how these transformations happen. Then what have been the challenges, unfinished agenda of PTC, then opportunity for the action in today's context, and then moving forward. So the journey begins, as Monica ji told, with Cyclone Pola of 1970. This is still today the deadliest disaster of the world, with 300,000 people died. And as this triggered the WMO and ISCAP partnership to establish an intergovernmental regional body. Prior to that, it had established a similar body, what is called ISCAP WMO Typhoon Committee. Now the panel came into the existence in 1972. It became part of WMO Tropical Cyclone Program and a subsidiary body of UN ISCAP Commission. So you see, it's linked in a very organic way with WMO and ISCAP together. The first session of PTC started in Bangkok. I'm so happy to see my colleagues from TMD here. So Bangkok was also the host of the secretariat in the beginning days. Then, of course, it aims at improving the cyclone warning and reducing its socio-economic impact. So this is how the journey started. But you look at in last 50 years, I think the previous talk, Dr. Mahapatraji explained at length the journey of 50 years. There were some challenging time, and you saw we have just listed some of the deadliest cyclone that happened in last 50 years. And as a result, that it's the highest mortality by any other disaster that happened in this region. But when you look at in last from this century, it's 2001 to 2023, still cyclone, despite all the improvements, continues to be the deadliest disasters. You see the number of mortality is still higher than any other disaster, take it from earthquake, tsunami, floods. So cyclone, of course, we have made huge impact that you have seen, continues to be one of the deadliest disasters in this region. Now, if you come to the other challenging part is the economic, the cyclone-induced damage and losses. This is something challenge for all the hazards anywhere in the world. The economic, the impact continues to be the high. It's of course it's less than the floods because flood is large scale, more widespread. So next to flood in terms of economic impact is tropical cyclone in the PTC member country. So cyclone deadliest in terms of economic impact just next to the floods. So with this journey of panel on tropical cyclone containing disaster mortality, but economic impacts continues to be high. I thought let me brief to you to bring to your attention how the policy transformation took place worldwide. In fact, there were three, four, five tracks of the policies. One was from disaster management perspective. Second was on sustainable development, climate, habitat, and hazards. What was surprising was all the tracks of policies were a siloed, means there was hardly any interactions or one contribute to the others. So it was a bit siloed in the beginning. It was also fragmented. Of course, there were efforts to bring it together. But today, thanks to 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development 2015, there is a coherence, whether it is a DRR, it's a Sustainable Development Goals, climate, habitat, and hazard. Hazard means you treat hazard separately. You treat the health sector irrespective of the other sectors. So this was happening in many cases. But in the recent time, particularly from 2015, there are efforts of bringing coherence, and that's the biggest policy transformation worldwide. It also came to region, to the country, and sub-national level. So the journey of disaster risk reduction, where tropical cyclone becomes a very important part of it, it has started with 1989 on International Decade for Natural Disaster. Then came Yokohama Framework, ISDR. Those are all incremental of improvements in our overall strategy. But the biggest came in 2015, that is Sendai Framework of Disaster Risk Reduction. Biggest in the sense it became part of UN Sustainable Development Goals and also the climate action, the climate change goals. So all three converge. So that provides a big opportunity of policy transformation. You don't look at cyclone warning from a single sector perspective, but you look at in the overall framework of sustainable development goals. So that's the biggest policy transformation, and that is one of the reasons why disaster or resilience building is the part of the global development policy agenda. So if I take it to what is happening in today's country, in all the member countries of PTC, disaster risk, what we call DRR strategy, you name any country of PTC members, they have aligned DRR strategy with the Sendai framework, all these goals and target of Sendai framework. It is also aligned with Sustainable Development Goals, Paris Agreement of Climate Change, and also the agenda for the humanity, particularly the humanitarian action. Those are all reflected in countries, what is called NDC, Nationally Determined Contributions, country VNR, that is Voluntary National Review. So we have brought coherence across the different tracks of the policy when we are looking at disaster risk reduction. This coherence we will see much more as we move forward. I thought let me map it out and look at PTC in in 2 days, where it exists if you look at from the global framework point of view. So this is the framework of disaster risk reduction, that is Sendai framework. You look at Sendai framework, which says mortality. In terms of PTC in last 50 years, we have made extremely good progress on A, E, G. A means reducing mortality. E means disaster risk reduction strategy. It has become part of it in most of the country. And G means early warning and risk information. So these three, PTC has made considerably good progress. Thanks to the colleagues, thanks to all of you watching the program. But we have limited progress in B and F, number of people affected. Of course, there are large number of people in the cyclone-prone region. We also have limited progress in terms of international cooperation, PTC needs to be better integrated with many of the global cooperation framework. But where the challenges lie in C, that is the economic losses which I flagged, continues to be on the rise. And D, the critical infrastructure services which are getting disrupted during the cyclone quite often. So these two, C and D of the Sendai framework target, continues to be the challenge for PTC. And now the real challenge which we are all experiencing today with the warmer climate, the disaster is becoming not only complex but also compound and cascading. So this is the nature of the tropical cyclone which we have to face. So our world has become more heat in the ocean and atmosphere, which can supercharge tropical cyclone. This is the scientific reality. It's like a heat engine transferring heat from the warm ocean up to the colder layers of the atmosphere. So we have to deal with cyclones in coming days, which are going to be more complex with compound and cascading impact. So those are the challenges. How we are going to manage these challenges. Can I? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So this is also just to bring to your attention that this is one of the major documents, technical scientific report last year, IPCC Assessment Report 6, which says means a very high confidence about the cascading nature, complex and compounding nature of the disaster, and especially with tropical cyclone. What I would like to bring to your attention, you are all experiencing practitioners. The tropical cyclone then intensify rapidly, difficult to forecast, and this can lead to forecast errors. So this is one of the challenging areas. Rapid intensification, curvature, newer and complex tracks result in unchecked casualty, damage, and losses. So these are the part of the challenges which we are experiencing more these days than ever before. Cyclone Titli, this is one example I always often hear from Dr. Mahapatraji and his team. It was a perfect case for a very precise landfall prediction, intensity track predictions. But after the landfall, it triggered landslide, flooding, and killed more than 50 people, despite very precise warning. So once cyclone becomes cascade on complex, it's very difficult to save life, to make it the early warning services more targeted. So sorry. So if you look at how the region is going to be in coming 50 years, what we saw, the journey of 50 years, the 50 years from now onwards, we did this report in ISCAP launched last month, the Asia Pacific Disaster Report. We used the IPCC Assessment Report 6 and looked at from the impact point of view, what could be the economic impact of the tropical cyclone in the PTC member country. And when you do a deep dive of downscaling climate scenarios, you see there are going to be intensification of tropical cyclone and expanding risk in Arabian Sea. So those are the quite apparent. I think this was presented previously by Dr. Mahapatraji. But if you convert this risk in terms of money, that is where the language finance minister of the country understands well. The annualized average loss in baseline data as of today, as IPCC prescribed, and 1.5 degree and 2 degree warming, you see there is a considerable increase in the annualized average losses in most of the countries, particularly of PTC, in most of the PTC member country. And this number is quite huge. 3.4 billion annualized average loss in PTC member country, which will significantly contribute the impact on many development goals. I thought I should bring to your attention who pays the price of cyclone impact? Who pays? So this, I thought, let me take the example of Cyclone Fani, because we had the sector-wise assessment. Cyclone Fani, the total loss was $8.1 billion. It's a considerably very huge loss to the Odisha state, eastern coast of India. 25% of the losses went to the south housing sector, where housing, food, nutrition, all these are attributed. 12% to agriculture sector, what is called productive sector, fisheries. 42% to infrastructure and 21% to the cross-cutting sector. If you look at, if you translate this in terms of who down the line at community level bears the brunt, it's a poor farmer, a small vulnerable and small holders, because most of the productive sector losses are going to be the small and marginal farmers. Same is the fishery. Similarly, housing, most of the housing is poor. So the impact of the cyclone down the line, if you disaggregate, you will see this is the poor, vulnerable, also private sector and government sector, because infrastructure is going to be impacted hugely. So this has been one of the reasons why some community continues to be not coming out from the poverty cycle. So now we thought we will bring to you two more examples. The examples is the sources of cyclone warning system down the line at community level. This is a study, I took it from Mahbub Sahana of Manchester University. It was published in International Journal of Disaster Risk Reduction last month. You see, this is Sundarban. They did a very large scale field survey. The sources of early warning system which reaches to at-risk community. You will surprised to know the early warning system reaches to the last mile is mostly from the informal sources. So that's the quarter of the sample. They receive mostly from their neighborhood. There are still unreached people. Early warning system, you see the Sundarban region, you see the different classes are still unreached, mostly informal sources. There are warning which also goes from the government channel. And what was found very clearly is the early warning dissemination, when it reaches to the community, it certainly reduces the vulnerability at household level and helps community to prepare to reduce the economic losses from the tropical cyclone. So the challenge here is still there are community unreached. Unreached means the community based on their warning messages, which they use to take action. But then we came to another analysis about the lead time forecast. As a scientist, we always feel the lead time is one of the very important contributions. But when you look at from the community side, the last mile perspective, the 12 hours lead time before the cyclone, community receives warning and they take very, very considerable action. So majority, 41%, they receive 12 hours before. Then comes to lead time 24 hours, 48 hours. There are means the community receive much better or find themselves more acceptable if it is 12 and 24 hours, and then further down the line. But what is really important to bring to your attention is many community, if you see the early warning response, they prefer to stay at home, and that number is 52%. Rather than shifted to the safer shelters, only 20% was shifted to the cyclone shelter. One region that was found was the cyclone shelters were a bit far away from the community villages. And the overall global experience is community at risk responds better if it's a impact forecasting. So the takeaway part for this lecture is there are six key takeaway which I would like to bring to your attention, particularly from global and regional perspective. The first takeaway is let's capitalize from 50 years now onwards the innovation in climate science technologies. So PTC has has come a long distance, we heard last time, on using science and technologies. So here, one opportunity this comes is the digitalization of cyclone early warning products and services. So let's capitalize on the digital services, build on the momentum of UN early warnings for all. This was launched last year. With a balanced approach with all four pillars of cyclone warning system. Third, which is coming in a PTC member country, G20 India presidency, first time they introduced a working group on disaster risk reduction. In the working group, the first objective was early warning, early action, anticipatory action with transboundary approaches. This is what PTC is all about. So it has gone now to the G20 level. So you see how the cyclone warning is receiving attention at, at such a level like G20, UN Secretary General Early Warning for All. Now, ESCAP Trust Fund, Tsunami Disaster and Climate Preparedness. I'm happy our colleagues from Thailand is here. They were the founder donor, then later many countries, including India, joined. This is the PTC is one of the key priority to fund ESCAP through the ESCAP Multi-Donor Trust Fund. Then the another breakthrough last year came with COP27 was the Loss and Damage Fund. Cyclone is one part of it. We have to create a narrative for loss and damage fund, how country could be benefited, particularly those in PTC region impacted by massive cyclones in days to come. And sixth one is the structural transformation of PTC Secretariat itself. So these six will help PTC to navigate the riskier times in coming days. So my first key takeaway, I thought I should just cite few examples. Digitalization of early warning products and services. This could be a game changer in terms of reaching out to the community, what I showed it to you previously, that community receive mostly informal sources of early warning products and services. It has to be formalized, and it can be formalized through digitalization. Some of the key technology, including the advances in Earth observation, satellite meteorology, ocean. There are constellation of oceanographic satellite, meteorological satellite worldwide. There are social media, geospatial data, IoT, drone, all put together with cloud computing, big data analytics is going to create a much bigger impetus on digitalization of early warning products and services. And this is the opportunity that has to be capitalized on in coming days. There are few very important trends which are cloud infrastructure. You know, it's a data intensive, particularly early warning services. When you receive data from the constellation of satellites, with the radar, with the mobile terminals, many things, you need a cloud infrastructure. There are many clouds which are now becoming so seamlessly available. We have new players, particularly the new corporation into the satellite constellation, which are providing services, and geo-intelligence through cloud computing software and services, all put together. And then advances in climate modeling, multi-model ensembles we heard last time, and dynamic forecasting. This set the early warning services becoming more digital with the impact forecasting, location-based, gridded, and targeted warning systems. So this could be a major breakthrough in days to come. We thought we will just share a few snapshots of digitalization of early warning services. It was in terms of impact forecasting of recent cyclone Mocha, which shows a dynamics of the population exposure on different days of cyclone progression. Started from India, Bangladesh, and finally to Myanmar. You see the number of people who are likely to be exposed. So you have to target the people whom the early warning has to be reached. And this kind of impact forecasting, targeting at-risk population, which are quite dynamic, every half an hour it changes, is one of the important digitalization of early warning services. The second is Cyclone Biparjoy, and the same, we created a digital infrastructure. We had all gridded world pop data sets along with the all critical infrastructure digital data set. And linked with the data provided from RSMC New Delhi, we could able to see the population exposure during the overall progression of cyclone in India as well as in Pakistan. So this is infrastructure like agriculture, how agriculture in Pakistan and India were exposed to the Biparjoy. This is what is the impact not only to the people but also on the infrastructure like agriculture, which is linked with livelihood, and also energy. So the value of agricultural production in terms of number, in terms of production, then one of the most critical infrastructure in the region is the energy infrastructure, which are impacted by cyclone. So with the impact forecasting, you capture both the people at risk and your critical infrastructure at the risk. So these are going to be the reality of digitalization of early warning products and services. My second point, second opportunity I would like to bring to your attention is the UN initiative on early warning for all. The point which I want to flag to you is this is based on an analytical report that WMO, UN, DRR contributed together. What was striking was people in Africa, South Asia, South and Central America, you see, are 15 times more likely to die from the natural disaster, climate disaster. This is something which that explains the vulnerability of South Asia, and most of them are in PTC membership. Now the UN initiatives, it has a budget, it projects a budget of 3.5 billion between 223 to 227 to protect everyone on the earth from the life-saving early warning system. Of course, it's quite ambitious, but this has to be first time a multi-UN initiatives led by WMO, UNDRR, supported by the pillars lead like ITU, IFRC, including the partner organization of FAO, OCHA, UNDP, UNEP, UNESCO, and WFP. At regional level, ISCAP has been mandated by the member country to join this global initiative, support the member, particularly the member countries like Typhoon Committee, Panel on Tropical Cyclone, and so on. So the ISCAP is on board as a regional player to implement these initiatives. The other part I would like to bring to your attention is G20. This provides a big opportunity, particularly for early warning for all in Asia Pacific and more to PTC. The PTC three members, Bangladesh, India, and Saudi Arabia, contributed to G20 delegation. One of the key outcome of G20 has been the transboundary approach of multi-hazard early warning system. Transboundary includes Bay of Bengal in the Arabian Sea. It's all ocean related disaster. So we were quite successful thanks to G20 member countries that the transboundary approach, regional cooperation became number one recommendations which are likely to come through the communique of G20 member countries. My last slide is on ISCAP commitment to early warning for all, especially flagging panel on tropical, prioritizing panel on tropical cyclone country for resource mobilization. This trust fund was established after Indian Ocean tsunami 2004 with the founding donors Thailand, later many countries joined, including India. This is at another time for us to take the early warning for all as a call to replenish the trust fund and a strengthened panel on tropical cyclone in coming days. So with these, thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity, and I'm available if there are any query, any questions. So thank you once again, colleagues, for this opportunity to me.
So I'm Pratibha from Jansatta. My question is, was there any prediction about this Rishikesh cloud burst? Can be any time any kind of system we have, so that we can measure the density of the cloud at any area. Do we have?
I think I will refer my colleague, Dr. Mahapatra Ji. He is expert in that area. I think is part of developing initiatives with the Government of India flagship publication. So he will be in a better position to respond to this very specific questions.
Okay. So thank you. At the outset, I express my deep gratitude and appreciation to Dr. Sanjay Kumar Srivastava, Chief of Disaster Risk Reduction, for an excellent presentation about the various aspects of the disaster risk reduction with special emphasis on tropical cyclones and bringing out the success stories in the region and also the challenges in the future. Yeah. So immediately, therefore, you have heard a challenge from our colleague from the press and electronic media regarding the cloudburst. Certainly, there has been 42 centimeter of rainfall in the past 24 hours over Rishikesh, ending at 8:30 hours IST of today. So, if you look at the large-scale system which caused this heavy rainfall, was the interaction of the monsoon circulation because of the monsoon trough shifting to the foothills of the Himalayas and a western disturbance passing through the region. So there has been extremely heavy rainfall activity a few places in Himachal Pradesh and also in Uttarakhand. And we could predict the episode. Episode was predicted with the statement that heavy to very heavy rainfall was likely over this region. But as you told that the cloudburst by definition is an event when rainfall exceeds 10 centimeter per hour. So there could have been cloudburst. We do not have any such system at present to measure specifically the cloudburst. But India Meteorological Department is trying its best to augment the observational systems, and we have a number of automated weather stations, automated rain gauges augmented in recent time, along with the government of Uttarakhand. And we have come up with the Doppler weather radar systems. It has been placed in the hilly areas. So as far as the risk is concerned due to the cloudburst, yes, the hilly areas like Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand are very prone for the cloudburst phenomena. And this type of phenomena occurs usually almost every monsoon season. So the attempt is on, and as the cloudburst is an event which has got the size of about a kilometer or so, or less than 3-4 kilometers, and it persists for a period of say half an hour to 3 hours. So therefore, the detection itself is difficult, but still, with the augmented observational network, we are able to detect highly convective clouds, which can lead to the rainfall of higher intensity. And accordingly, the forecasts and warnings are being issued. As far as prediction is concerned, yes, last 1 year, India Meteorological Department has introduced 2 high-resolution models with a resolution of about 2 kilometers. And in that model, the radar data are being assimilated, which provides forecast for next 12 hours. So therefore, we can have the intensity predictions, and last evening, it was indication from these models that it is going to have the intense rainfall activity. And based on these models, the nowcast or very short range forecasts are being issued by India Meteorological Department. In these models, we assimilate the data of the Doppler radar and also data from lightning detection systems. So if this system will further improve over the years, it has just worked for 1 year. And I'm sure that time will come when we'll be able to provide the forecast for such high intense rainfall events. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please, hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, I am Rashid Al Ariki from Yemen, engineer in meteorological system. Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. I want to ask you about the program of SOP, and DRR. to when will be enclosed to some areas and member TCP member countries. Can you,
Urgent.
hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you also can you please tell us what is your plan and the agenda of SOP and ERR for the West and Southwest Asia, especially west of Arabian Sea? Can you?
Yes, Rashid Saab, thank you for
Thank you.
this.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Rashid Saab. I think we have flagged this for our funding with ISCAP Trust Fund. And I very soon you will hear some news. We are in the process of replenishing the trust fund with our with our donor countries. Many of them are PTC member countries, and that's the very high priority. We will be taking this work forward. Yes, Rashid Saab.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Dr. Mahapatra, can I come in?
Sir, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. K. Ramesh, former DJMD. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Sanjay. It's a wonderful presentation as always. Your data portal in quantifying the exposure of the people and agriculture are really path-breaking initiatives which will help all the countries to load early warning information to assess the exposure and the risks associated with that. But now you have to plan to implement on infrastructure exposure along with the habitations and the cities, particularly hill states and coastal zones. That's where the people, many places have like Sundarbans, they have limited options. Exposure is high, limited option for going to safety. So, and at the same time, if that lifeline infrastructure collapses in the plan of evacuation and safe routing of vulnerable people, then it makes that things difficult. So that's where the critical infrastructure, lifeline infrastructure, adding on to the exposure is highly essential, and I request you to plan for it. That is point number one. Point number two is now you talked about compounding and cascading impacts as well, apart from the basic extreme event which is taking place. So, to anticipate or incorporate in the impact-based forecasting tools, these cascading and compounding impacts, so we have to link hydrological information and geological information also.
Yeah.
So that's where your expertise of remote sensing, GIS will be most essential to support IBF efforts and decision support activities. So I request you to plan for it, and if you have an outline of way forward, I would like to request you to share your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ramesh Ji. It's always a pleasure, and we get a lot of motivation talking to you on, especially on developing newer applications. Critical infrastructure, yes, and we are implementing under what is called UN SDG joint project in Maldives. Their critical infrastructure, are very different from the critical infrastructure in other countries. So we are making efforts with Maldives in particular, and then coming forward with CDRI. This is a coalition of disaster resilient infrastructure. So that's on part of our agenda. The cascading part, we have done some work with the health, but because with WHO, we could able to get the, what we call disaster, climate, and health nexus in certain pockets where climate triggers disaster, disaster triggers health emergency. So, but on hydrology and geology, a little long way to go, but of course we will keep our efforts to include hydrologic and the geologic parameter for cascading and complex disasters related impact forecasting. Dr. Nesty.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dr. Samim, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Already the issue discussed, but I would like to enhance the system. As you know that PTC, they have the jurisdiction for cyclone. But in our monsoon period, southwest monsoon period, always we face some heavy rainfall due to depression or low or well-marked low. But we never, not never, but usually we never face cyclone during the monsoon, southwest monsoon time because of the strong wind shear and other issues. But if we, because some heavy rainfall, also some very heavy disaster. As example, last Mocha, we did not have any casualties, no mortality was there. But in this last 7 days ago, there was a heavy rainfall due to depression, and 15 people lost their life. So in our PTC, can we take some initiative to include the mandate for low, well-marked low during the monsoon time? Is it possible?
This is to me, Dr. Das?
Yeah, not only you,
Yeah,
anybody in this panel can give the answer.
Yeah, Dr. Das, I think you are sitting in RSMC, and India.
This is
IMD,
Dr. Bhuya. This is Dr. Bhuya from Bangladesh Meteorological Department.
Sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
True.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Samim, for this raising this question. I just want to say that already RSMC is providing guidance in this regard. Maybe we have to increase that awareness that all people in concerned NMHS know what are the services being provided. So we have a severe weather forecast development program. Under that program, every day, RSMC New Delhi provides 5 days forecast of heavy rainfall, winds, waves, surges, and when cyclone is there, of course, cyclone and other parameters. So there also we mention about the weather systems like lows and depressions. So I request, it is a username password based information, therefore it is not able to general public. The focal point of a student DP from Bangladesh can share the username and password to concerned people, and they can go through that. We will be happy to get the comments and suggestions to further improve it. Just in a few days back, we have just started giving different regions of a particular state about the possibility, the risk assessment based on color-coded information. The second point I wanted to say that the tropical weather outlook, which is being issued every day for RSMC tropical cyclones, there, whenever we have even the cyclonic circulation that is being mentioned, and the low pressure area and well-marked low pressure area are being mentioned without failure. But it's true that we do not give the warning as such in a special bulletin form for this purpose, but the outlook includes that. The third initiative what we have taken is that we provide now the wind forecast for entire Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, along with the wind probability exceeding 17 knots or 34 knots. That means squally wind and gale wind warnings are also being provided from RSMC New Delhi. It is available in RSMC website and also in IMD website. So what we can do actually, we can add these fisherman warning bulletin also, this squally wind, gale wind warning along with the tropical weather outlook being issued daily or separately. With respect to heavy rainfall, yes, it is going only through severe weather forecast development program. And we are open to discussions, and RSMC in the next PTC can discuss to improve further the services, whatever is needed by the different countries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Adhampur Met Station, Indian Air Force. Do you have question? Your hands are raised actually. Some officer from Adhampur Met Station, Indian Air Force. Okay, so we'll take their question later. Dr. Sarfaraj, you can ask your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, for your excellent presentation. I must acknowledge that you always provide guidance on sector-specific impacts of looming hazard or seasonal in case of seasonal forecast and in case of the other forecasts also. IBF, I mean, for its effectiveness, it depends upon lot. It depends upon the vulnerability and exposure. I think these are the two factors or elements which need to be more elaborately understood in developing countries, especially in our case. I can say that, for example, in case of Biparjoy cyclone and similarly the last year floods and other things. So my question is that is there any plan at UNESCAP level to impart such some sort of training for deeper understanding of these two terms and incorporating these two terms in our, I mean, the short range forecast and long range forecast? Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Sarfaraz Saab, from ISCAP side, what we are trying to do, we are capitalizing on our partnership with many member country, including the UN agencies. So the vulnerability part that you highlighted, now there are world pop data sets, which of course UNDP promoted quite a bit. Now they are becoming more digital. The point which I was highlighting, the digitalization of the early warning products and services. So the world pop digitalization, now it's the data is available which are disaggregated by gender. So the improvement in digital services or the digital database on the vulnerability related attributes, and similarly the infrastructure related the information, the digital form information. So we are trying our best to acquire the data set. We have got it from ADB, got it from UNDP, from the UN DESA World Pop, and try to pass on to the country through the training. Because these data have their own limitations. These are the pixel sizes which may not capture the granular level vulnerability data, which normally, when you take this work down the line at a sub-district level, you need more granular information. So within the limitations of granular, particularly the coarse resolution pixels, these data can be used for digitalization of early warning services. And we have planned, we will be joining PTC attachment training. We are grateful to our RSMC colleagues. There are the exclusive session from ISCAP on impact-based forecasting, IBF. Next time, I think, as you said, Dr. Sarfaraz, we will have an exclusive discussion on this digital data, which are very critical, particularly exposure and vulnerability data into the IBF process. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Dr. Patnaik, sir, आपका question.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sanjay Srivastava, for your nice talk. How the policy transformation had taken place with regard to the tropical cyclone forecasting. Actually, you did mention some of the things. So I have very quick question, I can say. You did mention that the community preparedness, that is not sufficient at present.
Yeah.
That you mentioned one part.
Right.
Second part, you mentioned that lead time. I have noted 3 points. So the lead time, as you said, 12 hours, about 41% people, and about 24 to 48 hours, 35%. So that means whether the early warnings are not before, even early warnings we are giving 3-4 days also in advance. So do you mean say that means people are not taking seriously, means, or why it is not reaching that thing? That is number two. Third point is you also mentioned that international cooperation is not sufficient. Something is
Yeah.
it with respect to the management, operational part, or science part? So that's 3 points. Just I thought I will clarify.
Right.
Thank you.
Actually, Dr. Patnaik, the example that I cited was very specific to Sundarban. And, you know, this is the core of our PTC membership. This is a Bay of Bengal, one of the risk hotspot. So this was based on a very extensive sample survey. But my understanding, it's a very highly peer-reviewed journal. My understanding reading this was community response much better, means they have more confidence if it is 12 hours forecast. And the confidence comes down if you provide them information 4 days, 5 days. It's not that they are not confident at all, but you know, their confidence level for 12 hours forecast, the assessment, the survey reports say is the best. And that is based on their experiences of the 10 cyclone in the past. So in the paper that they came out very clearly, but this is the one which community 51% or so, they take action to go out or to do whatever measures at household level requires. And then, you know, the other part is basically the response. It's not that they are not responding, they are responding more to the 12-hour forecast than 24-hour or 48-hour forecast. So it was purely from a community perspective in a very, very empirical context of Sundarban and the tropical cyclone. So it was because of this research publication, I thought I should bring
Yes, sure,
this to your attention. The second on international cooperation, cooperation among scientists are fantastic. You are in IMD, RSMC, you deal with almost all top class, the climate scientists all over the world. But when it comes to little what is called supporting a program in PTC region and supporting a program in many other parts of the world, we have seen that still PTC is not able to attract the attention that it deserves. It's one of the hot spots. But the international cooperation mechanism, not the mechanism at scientist level, but when it comes to the political level, is still a long way to go. This is my understanding based on looking after Pacific, Southeast Asia, the Atlantic, Caribbean. This region needs little more than what it is today. Right.
Okay. Thank you for the answer.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello, Dr. Mrityunjay Mahapatra, sir. Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Sir, my name is Shivam Vikas Mandal from Maharashtra. So, sir, my first and second question. So I can tell you my first question: how does a cyclone change the direction? So we seen and observed that as a track changes, and what is there's a change of the track? Can you tell this?
Yeah. So thank you for taking interest in the cyclone forecasting or cyclone. The cyclone is just like a cork in the ocean. If you just throw a cork into the ocean, what happens? That cork will move along the ocean current. Similarly, in the atmosphere, a cyclone develops. A cyclone has a size of about 100 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers and at a height of about, say, 15 to 18 kilometers. So even though it is a large-scale weather system, but it is just like a curve if you consider entire atmosphere. So therefore, in the atmosphere, whatever wind is prevailing, where cyclone is located, that wind decides the direction of motion of the cyclone. Or you can say that wind steers the movement of the cyclone. But this is called as the steering current, or you can say the steering effect. But in addition to that, also there are other phenomena, say like the rotation of the Earth around its own axis, it also plays a role with respect to the motion of the cyclones. So therefore, if you do not have any dominant steering flow in the atmosphere, the cyclone usually moves towards northwest. It is because of the rotation of the Earth around its own axis. Sometimes there could be two cyclones nearby. They also interact with each other. That is called as Fujiwara effect. And accordingly, the direction of the cyclone movement also changes. So you can have like this different causative factors. So as a forecaster, we take into consideration all these, and also the numerical representation models take into consideration all these aspects. And accordingly, a multimodal ensemble is utilized to monitor and predict the cyclones, along with the use of the current scenario based on satellite observations, radar observations, and the ground truth like SIF, buoy, and automated stations, departmental observations. So, in nutshell, I tried to explain to you like this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Second question. In terms of the cyclone Biparjoy, there's a zero loss of life are reported. So, what is a take action at that time, cyclone Biparjoy? Can you tell this?
Now, what action was taken by us or taken by the government? What you want to know? Action taken by the India Meteorological Department?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So India Meteorological Department is the nodal agency for cyclone monitoring and forecasting and to provide guidance to all the countries in this region. So we started monitoring around the clock well before, and for the first time we could detect that something is going to develop around 5th or 6th of June. So an extended range forecast was issued on 1st June, indicating that something is going to happen and it will become a cyclone. And finally, on 5th, the low pressure area formed, and once it formed, we indicated that it's becoming a cyclone. 6th, it became a depression. Then we gave the track forecast. We provided the track and provided the intensity, what are the winds expected. And then gradually we went on monitoring every 3 hour, every 6 hour bulletins were issued to all stakeholders, starting with fishermen, farmers, the ports, ships, aviation authorities, and of course the disaster management authorities for all the coastal states, including. So once we gave this information on 6th that it is moving northward, then Gujarat government took action from 6th onwards to make a preparedness. On our side, we went on preparing ourselves, and we took stock of our observational systems, monitoring system, forecasting systems, and warning dissemination systems. So apart from all these, we interacted with the government. Say, for example, the first meeting was held on 11th, when we informed government that it is going to hit Gujarat as a very severe cyclone storm with a wind speed of 240, 150 kilometers per hour. Then immediately National Crisis Management Committee was held. Then 12th again meeting was held. Then again Honorable Prime Minister also took the review. So like that, I will tell you, it is an end-to-end early warning system and the management of the cyclones. Early warning is the first component, and therefore IMD takes the first step to provide information to disaster managers, general public, and all the stakeholders. And accordingly, they are updated in regular intervals, and government takes action. Okay. So we can go to next question, please. I think the math section, Dr. Sarfraz also wants to speak.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I just want to know the when as you talked that when these in case of cyclone, the steering factor, actually the upper air winds, which level wind at which level do you consider the most appropriate? And for example, in case of Biparjoy cyclone, there were two subtropical ridges. One was over central India, and the other one was over Arabian Peninsula. So, how when you decided as a cyclone expert that okay, the Arabian Peninsula ridge will become dominant and it will push it towards northeast.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Dr. Sarfraz. You are so monitoring at the time we work together. So what I want to say that there is no such fixed steering level. So initially, if you remember, in our region, we discussed that the upper level, like say 300 SPA or 200 SPA, could be the steering level. But afterwards, it is found that the steering level cannot be restricted to one or two levels. Steering level depends on sometimes the entire atmosphere, starting with say 1.5 kilometer up to say 15 kilometer when cyclone is embedded in the atmosphere. But sometimes if depending upon the intensity of the system, depending upon the height up to which it is extending, the steering level will be different. So on a real-time basis, if you ask me what we do actually, we go on finding out the steering main winds for different layers of atmosphere, say lower level, middle level, upper level, and lower plus middle, or middle plus upper, or lower plus middle plus upper. Different types of upper level, different types of mean winds are available from different models and observations. And actually how it is moving, that translational speed and directions are also monitored every 3 hours and every 6 hours. So by that comparison, we can find out which is the steering level for this particular cyclone. So in this case, particularly when we told Biparja, yes, there were two anticyclones. One is over the west and another is over the east. And that was the reason sometimes west anticyclone was becoming dominant and sometimes east anticyclone was becoming dominant. Accordingly, the track was changing very often. It is not the case every time. If I count, our colleague also counted, there was 9 times the track changed during the cyclone Sanjay. It is because of this high density between the two anticyclones which was influencing this particular project. But finally, when we were 18 UTC of 10th, 18 of 10th, when we reviewed all the models, when we reviewed all the observational features, including this steering anticyclones to the west and east, we decided that no, so it is the time now to say that it will move to Gujarat coast. And that's why we changed our forecast at 10, 18 UTC. And accordingly, we get this information to all that it is. And that, of course, it is 5 days ahead. And accordingly, action was taken by India and Pakistan to minimize the loss of lives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
So there is one question from Med section. I don't know which.
I think that hands are raised by mistake, I think, because no one is asking questions, sir.
So I have one question to Srivastava sir.
Yeah,
So
please.
I will just refer to that particular slide when you discussed about the projections of 1.5 degrees Celsius and 2 degrees Celsius rise in temperature, and accordingly what will be the risk and in terms of money, what will be the loss. What I find in the slide that if I compare the current scenario with 1.5 degrees Celsius scenario and 2 degrees Celsius scenario, the loss is not increasing. The loss is almost same. What could be the reason for that?
Yeah, actually, we looked at this factor, but I want to tell you that if you take multi-hazard approach, then those losses becoming very clear. Means many times flood is also induced by the cyclone. There are other hazards triggered by cyclone. So when we dig little deeper into understanding why the impact of cyclone is not so clear at 1.5 degree and 2 degree, then the peer reviewers, those who were part of this group, their advice was you look at from a multi-hazard perspective and then you will see the impact. And that was very clear. When you see the cyclone floods together, then it increases the coastal impact. So that was the interpretation, but you know, the climate models, it cannot be like a quantum mechanics, it's a approximate science, but we could see when we take the multi-hazard approach very sharply. Yeah.
But in this particular table, what you showed, it does not show increase, rather decrease.
Yeah, 2.0. Yeah. So our idea was to include multi-hazard because this was more on PTC, so it didn't include all hazards together. But in the report, Dr. Mahapatra, which I have highlighted, those are very well explained.
Fine. So I have just related question to that. When we predict for 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Celsius, at the same time, the mitigation approach and
Yeah,
also the actions which has been in place so far, that also will reduce the impact.
right.
That is number one. Number two is that, but the vulnerability by that time will increase in terms of our assets, in terms of our properties along the coast, etc. And that will be multiplied. Whatever we have now is the rate at which the countries are developing, so it will increase. So whether all these aspects are taken into consideration while estimating the losses because of 1.5.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Mahapatraji, you said part of the answer, which I wanted to tell you, is a shared socio-economic pathway. It's different from the representative concentration pathway. So the mitigation actions that you are taking, those are all factored in this shared SSSP scenario that we have used, the middle pathway scenario. So many of what you are seeing, the reduction, is also because of the mitigation action. So it's a bi-directional. Your risk is moving. At the same time, your mitigation efforts are also intensifying. So they have taken both the bidirectional interactions of mitigation as well as risk together. And that is where you see somewhere. But the bigger interpretation they highlight is if you take multi-hazard and then you interpret, then you could see that the mitigation is not enough. The risk is outspacing mitigation effort.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Sir, there are no questions in both the chat boxes. So if there are any other questions, if you can ask, now you can ask. Otherwise, we can go ahead with the program.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Atula Karuna Naike, Director General and PR of Sri Lanka to WMO to present the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Respected distinguished delegators, it is my privilege to process of the vote of thanks to all the participants on behalf of WMO SCAP panel on tropical cyclone. I extend my sincere thanks to the invited speaker, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, for this informative talk on transformation in disaster risk reduction policies while responding to tropical cyclone. Actually, Dr. Sanjay today discussed with us the paradigm shifts in policy and planning at international and national level that has led to significant reduction in death and structure associating with tropical cyclone over the region, with the case of recent cyclone Mocha as an example. During cyclone Mocha, there were only 145 deaths over Myanmar and no death over Bangladesh. All this could be achieved with active collaboration among WMO, SCAP, RSMT, New Delhi, and government of Myanmar and Bangladesh. We thanks for this intensity talk. We also express my sincere thanks to WMO SCAP, all the members country of PTC, and all the respective permanent representative for joining with us. My special thanks to all the disaster management researchers, academics, students, and general public for their active participation. Lastly, I thank the Ms. Monica and Cyclone Warning Division, RSMC, Tropical Cyclone New Delhi, for their cooperation in organizing this event. Please excuse me if I miss any name or institute involving in this exercise. It is not purposely. Thank you very much. I am Atula Karuna.
Thank you, sir. So we thank all of you, including the representatives from WMO, SCAP, PTC member countries, including the representatives from Thailand, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Yemen, and disaster managers from India, including National Disaster Response Force, Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, and forecasters from India Meteorological Department, media persons, researchers, and academia for your active participation. We thank you all. Special thanks to Dr. Sanjay Srivastava for sharing with us the story of establishment of panel on tropical cyclones. Sir has pointed out various challenges that we may face in management of cyclones due to impacts of climate change. And to combat the disaster due to cyclones, Sir discussed a 6-point action plan with us, including digitization of cyclone warning products, and then enhancement of international cooperation, implementation of early warning and early action for all, implementation of impact-based forecasting, development of synergized SOP with various stakeholders, and development of structural resilience. So we thank you, sir, for a very informative talk, and SCAP for various initiatives to combat death and destruction over the region. We also thank Dr. Emma Batra, DG IMD, for addressing various questions during this session. Thank you all for your active participation. And next Monday, we have a lecture, special lecture by Dr. T. Peng from WMO. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. So if anyone else wants to speak, it's fine. Otherwise, we can close. But before closing, I request to have a photograph.
We request all to please switch on their videos and with a big smile, please.
Okay. Answer. Okay. So thank you very much for participating actively. There was a very good participation, and it was quite a good learning for each of us. Especially, I will tell you, I learned a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.